Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettyjohn.
All right, and we are live. Hawaii Boss crew, we are excited to have our very first female guest today. Yes, you can hear her in the background. She's excited. I'm excited. She happens to be a millennial. And she's coming to represent Kauai as well. She's the triple threat coming out of Kauai. And so we're excited that she's with us, Miss Monica Belz. She happens to be a CEO. What do you prefer, Monica or chief or boss, or how do you like to go?
You can call me Belz.
Belz, okay, well.
Or a lot of my friends here call me Mo Belz.
Mo Belz. Do your staff get to call you that too?
My staff, they call me boss lady and I hate it, but
okay.
I'll let them do whatever they want. They can call me whatever you want.
Well, let's talk about what you're the boss of. Kauai Government Employees Federal Credit Union, CEO. How long have you been the CEO over there?
I just breached 3 years. So, wow, what month is it now? Okay, so yeah, I'm on my 4th year now. Just started my 4th year.
That's a solid tenure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is.
So
it's
now,
a big 3 years.
Well, there's been a lot going on. We'll talk about that later with the pandemic in 2018 with the floods and things and your interaction there. But first, I did a little reading on you and I understand you were an entrepreneur as a teenager. Tell us a little bit about when you, that spark of business, that little spark of thing that started happening, says, I got a little something in here that I can put down on the ground and make things work. When was that? What happened?
Yeah, so when I was like 11 or 12, I went to Tonga.
Okay.
My grandparents lived there. And my grandfather worked he was building a college there, and my grandma taught English in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home, I hadn't been able to save money and make my summer money for the snowboard season. So I started a little lawn mowing business so that I could make as much money as possible to get my new set of snowboards for the season. And I realized, man, I can make a lot of money doing this. So that was my first business.
Uh-huh.
And then I just kept, I needed to fund all of my fun recreational activities, and I needed to fund all of my international projects and nonprofit work that my grandpa hired me to do.
Okay.
So I just figured out how to make money at a young age, and that took off and became an entrepreneur.
Well, you snuck something in there. Someone taught you how to do this at a young age. What was this person? You said grandfather?
Yeah, well, my grandfather inspired me in the nonprofit space and just his hunger for the whole globe and helping the globe, especially the impoverished communities. My mom is an entrepreneur. And so when I told her I want a brand new snowboard for the season, she told me she'll help me earn the money for that. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna need a lawnmower and a printer to print all these flyers out, because I'm pretty sure I can mow everybody's lawn, because I could only mow my lawn like once a week. The grass was growing faster. So like, I'm gonna need a couple more lawns to do here.
You're trying to identify ways to increase your revenue stream at 12 years old. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I couldn't afford a lawnmower for all these other lawns. So I had to lease my mom's lawnmower for these lawns. So she set up the little mini company line for me and said I had unlimited access to her ink and printers, and I could lease the lawnmower, but I had to pay for my own gas.
Did you have a date when you had to pay for your own gas, and you at least when were the payments due on the lease? Monthly, or you had an annual, or how was that?
Every time I used the lawnmower, I owed her $1. So it was a great gig because I got paid really well in that neighborhood. There were some people that loved paying me to mow their lawn.
Well,
because I was so cheap. I didn't realize I was cheap. I didn't figure out the price point stuff until about 6 months into it. And I'm like, man, I should be charging way more than $10 for a lawn.
Right. You start getting savvy about it, and then you start to see those things. But, that's unusual at that age to be able to say that you understand that, price points and leasing of having a special, unique parent, I think has some advantages. And I think this should be taught in schools more frequently. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually do a lot of work with JA, Junior Achievement, and teaching entrepreneurship. That's my favorite class to teach youth, because you can go in and try to teach financial literacy and other content. But when you teach them entrepreneurship and you let them decide what their company is, and they're passionate about it, all of a sudden they're learning financial literacy inadvertently. They don't realize they're learning so much, but they're so excited about their business that they're building, that they've chosen to build, that they learn it all. So I think entrepreneurship is a great topic in school and should be taught everywhere.
Yeah, it seems elusive to folks, or it's like it's some special thing, but actually it's just day-to-day business. My older brother, actually, when he was a kid, he was an entrepreneur. He would buy a pack of the Mambas or something like that, and then sell each one out, you get a little bit of, increase on the thing. So he took his lunch money, bought the candy, and then he kind of rolled it over and, made, so there's different little things. You don't even realize you're actually, these youth and young folks don't even realize they're actually doing entrepreneurship. They're trying to get something for their work, and just putting it together. Sometimes they need a little help, a little bit of a mentoring sort of thing. So it sounds like you're doing that through your teaching, but also any other places where in Kauai that you're, as a CEO now, and sort of you feel this role of a responsibility to mentor those young, particularly young women leaders as they're coming up. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Sure. I love the mentorship model. I've had so many mentors in my life, and they weren't even necessarily formal mentors. They were people that had so much knowledge who inspired me. And that I wanted to be around and I wanted to learn from. And so I would just tap them and call them and build relation with them and ask them out to coffee. And then they wanted to teach. People want to teach from people who want to learn. It's like this most amazing thing that's universal and probably has happened since the beginning of time. And so when you find people that want to learn from you and or people you want to learn from, like, jump in on that. So I have a lot of millennial leaders and even non-millennial leaders throughout our organization who it's just a natural mentorship. I think it's just part of the gig. And honestly, I'm mentored by them too in other realms. But just sharing knowledge and resources and watching each other with their own superpowers. We're really big superpower thing here, where everybody has a superpower.
Right.
And it's our kuleana to recognize that, own it, and strengthen it and use it. It really is our kuleana. And like when you put it in those terms, it makes it harder to kind of hide that or suffocate that or not believe in yourself. Almost like, oh, so it's my responsibility to believe in myself for my own self and community and family. Oh, okay. I guess I can't pretend that I don't have a superpower anymore. I have to own that thing and run with it. But once you start pulling those superpowers out of people, it's pretty incredible to see what you can do as a team when everyone knows their superpower and loves each other's superpower and respects each other's superpower.
Absolutely, especially when the topic can become, hey, what are you good at? Well, I'm not really good at anything. No, that's a lie. Someone told, that's not true. There is something that you're good at. You happened to find it early when you were young. And so that, and your parent helped sort of to pull that out and see that in yourself. But sometimes without a mentor, it becomes very difficult. You sort of get caught in your own head and you don't realize that there is a way out of your current, strait or whatever, situation that you're in.
Yeah, I see superpowers a lot. I think it's one of my superpowers is identifying other people's superpowers. And then I don't mind if people have to get uncomfortable about their superpowers, but I let my teams know this is what I see and I am amazed by it.
Right.
And I'm usually not the only one, right? If I'm seeing superpower, I assure you other people around that person has seen that superpower before too. So I usually have a coalition of others that can say, hey, you are incredible at such and such.
Right.
Do you know that? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I know that. And then, but most of the time it's like, am I really that good at that? Like, yeah, you're really good at that. Let's do more of that. Do you like that? Yeah, I love that actually. Okay, good. Let's find something that we can, where we can exploit that and make sure you're passionate and stoked and having fun doing the thing that you're really good at.
Right. Rather than, here's the job I want you to do, fit into this box. I don't care if you're sort of unhappy or not, but you have to find that joy in the work that you do and try to find those matches with the work and the personality and the person, that they're unique, that every person is unique. It's not this, I've got my job description and you're going to fit into this, thing. It just doesn't, it doesn't pan out because there's humans. They're human.
Right, exactly. And there's fear in there. There's a lot of human elements that are sometimes barriers. There's fear of all kinds of things that can prevent us from believing in ourselves or prevent us from, focusing on areas that we're not good at. And so I think a lot of human and leadership interaction is psychological, right? It's like the more you know about psychology and honestly just mental health and therapy work, therapy is really popular right now. And I encourage career therapy, life coaches, executive coaches, leadership coaches, therapists, personal, relational, all kinds. Like those fields are booming right now. And I'm stoked that they are because they make people better and more self-aware, more emotionally intelligent, more able to help others become self-aware and manage other people's emotions. So that's probably one of the silver linings of COVID, I think, that industry is booming.
It is. And now, though, companies, rather than going back to the norm, they need to somehow figure out how to fold those processes in of engaging people in that deeper level, that more mindset level than really just behavior level, that we're engaging the person on, who they are, their person and their needs and their family needs and their community needs. It's not just that they're not in a bubble, these people that work with us. They have a whole host of needs that we also support with their health insurance and with things. So tell us, in your role, you're a money person. You provide when people are having a tough time or when they need something to grow their business or whatever, they come to you at the Kauai Government Employees Federal Credit Union. That's a mouthful. Hold on.
It is a mouthful.
KGEFCU. I'll just kind of roll it like that. But you must see as a part of not just your employees, but then now the people that come to you from the community and say, we have needs. Bank USA won't do this for me. What can you do? What's different about the credit union versus the bank from the mainland or whatever that you can do special?
Oh, thanks for asking that. That's one of my favorite questions. I usually lead with that, like just who we are. So credit unions are fundamentally different than banks. We were born during the Great Depression. And we were born in a time where the only way to access wealth was to be wealth. So the accessibility gap was huge. It still is, actually, to be honest with you. But, to the rest of the population, if you were a farmer or a small business owner and you didn't have a suit and tie, you couldn't really walk into a bank and ask for capital. That didn't happen then. Yet, farmers and small business owners and families and communities, they needed to access, they needed to buy land for another acre to up their income a little bit. They needed to buy a lawnmower, buy a vehicle, whatever it was. And so they hooeyed together and made these credit unions. And the model is not for profit. Literally, it's not for profit. So it's similar to nonprofit in that way. So the community owns the wealth, right? The hooey owns their fate, owns their resources, owns their future. And so the more people that hooey together and get behind that, the more ownership, autonomy, and independence a community has, a microeconomy has.
Right.
So today, you fast forward that decades later, that story's gotten lost quite a bit. So I love telling that story to the community, especially on Kauai, because when people grasp that this is a hooey and that we own our resources and we own our fate and we own our economy, provided we keep hooeying together, and that we get to dictate how to deploy this capital in a way that we want to see capital grow and we want to see our community grow and sustain itself, that means we own our future. And as opposed to other models where the money is exported or imported, resources exported, imported, and it's all dependent on external forces. So really important we get that word out again and tell that story. Credit unions are fundamentally different. Because of that, we have a social mission at heart. It's a social enterprise, and that it's a repeatable, scalable business model that fulfills a social mission. And our DNA is community owned, right? We're by the community and for the community. And so our goal here is to continue hooeying to build a stronger community owned force and deploy the funds into our community in areas that's like social finance, sustainable finance, where we're diversifying our economy, where we're diversifying industry, where we're building jobs so that our young people can return home and live here affordably and have well-paid jobs. They can get an education, they can start their own businesses. So we're a piece of that microeconomy. We're a big piece of it. And we truly believe it. And so we're rallying other community stakeholders. And honestly, the tone after COVID has been similar everywhere, right? Like all of the community stakeholders know we were way too dependent on tourism and it hurt us yet again. And so what can we all do to hui together to build a different economy here? And that's what we're doing. We're a big piece of that solution because again, we're social finance.
Absolutely. Again, you made a good point about the money that comes in, and then there's expectation that for those folks that do invest it goes back out, rather than, well, as we hui, we gather the people that are there and say, here's my money. It kind of reminds me of that old one where, the old credit union or the savings and loan, the Christmas story one where you had to, come on, no, this is the money's not here. It's in your house over here. And it's in your house over here. That was just that's the truth. The big bad bankers and stuff, this is the solution in many ways, but it's only just one part of it. And I think it's just the whole concept that Kauai does when bad things happen. It's probably a good example for the rest of Hawaii to how they are able to gather together. Tell us a little bit about your experience in these instances, 2018 giant flood where you had to help out both financially and things. I understand also you were physically out there helping, trying to save and rescue. Past that, COVID, and tell us a little bit about these emergencies and how this very special role of the credit union fit into all of that, and you as a leader.
Sure, great. So I was actually just in a board meeting this morning for the Kauai Fire Department, Friends of Kauai Fire, and we were talking about the story of the 2018 floods and how this community banded together and is so resilient. And it's almost like this resilience that has been built throughout the years and was certainly rekindled in the 2018 floods and just showed up again at the March 21 landslide that hit above Honolulu Bridge is almost flawless. It was like within 30 minutes of the March 21 landslide, we had crews down below and we had a ferry system deployed. We were getting tourists across to get their groceries and back over. And we had the leaders in place. We had the boats in place. We had the safety crews in place. We brought in about 12,000 pounds of food from the food bank. And it was unbelievable how a community can rally and build those supply chains within, 30 minutes of a mishap like that. And it's because of the resilience from that time period. The 2018 floods was, it was devastating. It was heartbreaking. Thank God we didn't lose any lives. But the community rallied so quickly together. There were boats and jet skis immediately going to rescue people and, build new routes for people to have access and get supplies to and fro. And those routes kept going for weeks, if not months. And that's how the community works here. So our credit union, the morning after the floods, we got together and we're a government employees credit union. So a lot of our members are the first responders and a lot of our employees are the families of first responders. So it's kind of innate in us in disaster response. My background is in international disaster relief work as well and firefighting, EMT. So I think it's like our team just was a little, just more experienced in that world. So we just instantly knew we need to help and let's get some trucks together. Let's get some supplies together. Let's get on the line and find out what are the immediate needs. And then, you'd think right out of the gates, oh, let's get food to these people, right? But in a disaster like that, it was the boats and jet skis rescuing people are out of gasoline and diesel. And the North Shore diesel port is out of diesel now too and gas. So the next place to get fuel is Lihue, which is cut off from them and so far away. We happened to be in Lihue that morning. The next need was all of their cell phones. There's no power. All of their cell phones batteries were low. So we didn't know who needed to be rescued and who didn't because cell phone batteries were dying. So we ran a Walmart and bought every power bank we could find and tried to get them all, as charged as possible. And got as much fuel as we could in the fuel tanks that were left on the island. And then of course, water and food, but certainly water. And as soon as we could get the fuel up to the jet skis we have an amazing story of a woman who needed to get to see medical attention immediately. And she wasn't going to make it if she didn't. The jet ski ran out of fuel. And so it was literally like our fuel can we had like our letters on it because we needed to keep going back and forth and the island was out of fuel cans. She literally remembers seeing the fuel can come in and came back and told the story and just said, you guys saved my life. Thank you. And everybody was saving lives. It wasn't just us by any means. It didn't even matter who you were, or what company you were from, or organization you represented was irrelevant. It was like, we are humans and we are here to hui up and help this island. That's the DNA of the culture here. It's also the DNA of the credit union. Like, same model, which is beautiful. So yeah, the credit union stepped in big time. to help support however we could. It was, very much like the first responders were amazing. The community leaders were amazing. And we were just filling in whichever gap we could find. Financially, though, we were able to tap some resources in Texas, where a lot of the credit unions there had responded to so many hurricanes. And so they immediately informed us of these cool programs that were like, your community is going to need emergency, especially your community. They're going to need emergency funding like within hours, because people don't have a savings for emergency funding, especially in communities that are rural, lower income, higher cost of living. I rest assured they don't have 10 grand just sitting in their bank account to cover bills for 6 months or a few months and to clean up their house that was just destroyed before the FEMA money gets there. So we built an emergency flood loan, and literally I was jet skiing into Hyena, set up a pop-up branch and just deploying these emergency funds out to the community up there so that they could get their home up, they could get their bills paid, they could just take a break. A lot of the documents were washed away, so we had to build, all of these different kinds of alternative programs to quickly get these funds out to the community. And then it was the impetus of us starting a North Shore branch. There was no credit union up on the North Shore. We had a lot of members up there. So we ended up building a North Shore branch, and we opened it during COVID.
Wow.
Ranch is so cool. If you're ever on Kauai, you have to check it out. It's in Kilauea town. So we have a 40-foot mural painted by a local muralist of the whole legacy and story of North Shore Kauai. And it ties in through like the nene birds and the different symbols on the mural. It ties in our credit union story. And we have an amazing storyteller, Chantal Zarbo. She's our business development officer. She's like born and raised from that area of the island. She literally pulled taro her entire childhood in the taro field. She tells the story, and every time she tells it, twice a day, like I still get chicken skin. I'm like, tell it again, Chantal. And then we have the wood that's from Monkey Pod, refurbished wood from the North Shore, and it's done by a woodsman from the North Shore too. So it's like everything was recycled and taken from the North Shore for the North Shore to the North Shore in the branch. So now you get this like tangible feel of like, oh, that's what a credit union's all about. This is so cool.
Embedded in the community.
Yeah. And then we have the Kauai Museum. Chucky Boy Chalk came up, walks in, and he said, I have artifacts from this exact area. Can we house them here? And we're like, yes, please. So now we have these like poi pounders, that the only poi pounders in all of Hawaii who are women and had their own women-shaped tools were from Kauai. And we have the poi pounders that the women built for them displayed in the branch, along with some of the capes as well. So it's just such a special branch that, again, was the impetus of the 2018 floods. And then now we have COVID hitting, tons of relief work that we've been doing since COVID hit. We are a CDFI, so Community Development Financial Institution, Minority Financial Institution, low income. And we'd already been working on these designations with the U.S. Department of Treasury pre-COVID. And it worked out really well for us, because a lot of the aid now is being very much tailored and funneled through MDIs, CDFIs, and low income. And so we are deploying last year $11 million into the community through the funding from the federal government. This year, we'll probably over double that. Very busy team, very committed team, incredible team here at the credit union and beyond, just great relations and partnerships with community stakeholders in the county of Kauai. But again, that is the nature of Kauai and why this island is such a cool island.
So is it all these great things, is it replicable to the rest of Hawaii, or there's some growing and learning pains that maybe the rest of the islands would have to be able to hui like Kauai does?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think so. I think human resiliency is embedded in all of us. I know Kauai is a special place. It is a petri dish model. I think it deserves just documentary after documentary. I love storytelling, and I love especially documentary storytelling. And we're actually working on a docuseries right now. Last year, because the stories of resilience here are incredible. And I do believe that it is replicable across the world. I've been to over 50 countries and seen some pretty incredible places and people groups. And all, Kauai is incredibly special, but all of Hawaii is on that token. And I bet you through COVID, there will be so many amazing documentaries about human resiliency come out across the planet that will inspire all of us for ages to come.
Yeah, we've already heard them, and nonetheless, no more. Less a miracle than many of the other miracles we've seen, that Kauai can pull off. But we just these wonderful human stories of people coming outside of themselves, sort of recognizing that we can't do this alone, a lot of folks, and Kauai just houses that so much. Some people sometimes come outside of Kauai and don't quite get that right from the beginning. I heard there was some famous, social media person that came, tried to buy a bunch of land over there and just missed the whole point altogether. And I think people need to know that you just can't come to Kauai and expect Kauai to bend to you.
Yeah, we have a saying that Kauai will either eat you up or spit you out, or embrace you and not let you go. And there's really not a lot of control you have over that. You either are embraced or not. You just have to obey it. Don't fight it.
What, voted off the island, I think might be, or, just suddenly.
It's incredible.
Right.
You know what? This is one of the coolest melting pots of socioeconomics. I tell this story everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. I could be at a lunch table, with my kids and all of their friends from school in the neighborhood or whatever. And there could be, quite literally, I've brought my mom to one of these, right, where there's a, net worth $500 million plus to billionaire club at the table, to a incredibly famous person in maybe an arts field. And then, some kind of government official or ex-government official. And then a guy who doesn't even have a home, really, like just kind of couch hops. And then a family that lives off of a very humble income. Mm-hmm. And everything in between, all sitting at the table, and no one knows or cares about any of that. We're all there because we love Kauai and we have a love and respect for each other. And hey, look, the surf's good, let's paddle out. Or hey, it's sunset time, let's light a fire. And yet we're just all part of the same crew. It's pretty incredible.
Well, I am, after this interview and then with some of the other folks I've interviewed from Kauai, I am so ready to go. I haven't been yet. I have lots of friends over there too. I know it's a big island, Mount everywhere else, but not there. So I'm guilty. So now we want to find out a little bit more about, we know why we want to come. We want to come visit you. We want to come and visit your credit union because you are part of the community. And also you're doing something, again, that back to that mentorship. What, as a 37-year-old CEO, sounds like you got this all dialed in already. What's the next thing for you? It sounds like a docu-series now, and now, so any more mentoring activities with women or others as you're trying to bring, again, leadership for women has sometimes, I wouldn't say, well, there's different opinions about there, male leader versus female leader. I don't care really. For me, it's like, if you're a leader, you're a leader, but there is some different qualities I think men that have versus women, and a lot of arguments out there. What's your thought? How do you think, as far as just leadership in general, from your position, what do you think it means?
Super question. I'm a millennial, so I hate to box or categorize anything, but what I love about millennials, so I'm like one of the oldest of them. So here we come, world, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I'm not young, right? I'm not old, but I'm certainly not just graduating high school at this point. I'm 38. So
young as a CEO. We'll just point that out. Young as a CEO.
And young as a CEO, but maybe that's not it might not be representative if I'm one of few CEOs. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I'm stoked that there will be far more millennials CEOs very soon. And I am a huge advocate for that. And here's why. Millennials are the most diverse generation that we have in the workforce. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I mean that diversity by not only ethnicity, not only gender, but we're fluid. We don't see the world as even gender oriented, right? We don't see the world as like black or white or Hispanic or this or that. We're all a melting pot. We grew up a melting pot. We also grew up digital natives in the melting pot. So,
sure.
It's not about like, I've had many questions asked on women leadership panels where I'm the only millennial, where it's like, tell me about a time you've been intimidated by women or men. And I'm like, I don't really see it as like a woman or a man. It's like, I guess I just don't see it that way because I'm a millennial. I'm like, it's a lot more fluid for us. I think that's brilliant. So you look at like the millennial CEOs, I assure you, we have a much more diverse group on our C-suite teams, on our boards, in our staff, in our membership. And if diversity, equity, inclusion really is a value set that we're trying to forge ahead, then hire more millennial leaders. We're also the most educated generation. Mm-hmm. So we have our MBAs, right? And I can't tell you how many CEOs I know, not that an MBA is mandatory by any means, but it's important, right? To be able to go through that much school and learn from, that's the mentorship, right? Learn from the best of the best.
Sure.
And absorb all of the knowledge that's out there for us and the resources that are out there to tap into. So we're equipped and diverse. And the more diversity we see, the more our world will flourish, the more our businesses will be more sustainable, the more our business practices will be more inclusive. And I think that more that value set of DEI will really permeate this planet is when we get more DEI represented at the top and in leadership.
Absolutely. And this COVID has accelerated that movement because the older generation, even Gen X like me, we have a little problem with the technology. We're still sort of trying to catch up with everybody. And so instead of like these millennials, are they going to try and bridge the gap to this older generation? I think maybe they'll just create on their own and say, this is how we're going to do it. Would you like to play? Rather than we're not going to tell us how you did it and we're going to follow your example because you left us with all this debt and all this other kind of stuff. So we'll try and do a different way, right? We'll try something else that maybe you haven't thought about, and we're going to try it our way. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And remember, I took care of my grandmother for the last 5 years of her life, 90 to 95. My sisters are also in the hospice field. So I think that's really important and cool. Like it was invaluable for me to have that experience to where I watch, it's cradle to the grave. I had little ones while I was taking care of an elder, and to really understand, like we really come out the same way we come in, the same way we go out.
Right.
Right. We need someone to completely take care of everything for us. And it just gave me so much perspective on, oh my gosh, I'm like going to be taking care of everyone here pretty soon.
Right.
Like the boomers are about to go into that age group, and then there aren't enough extras to take care of them. So the millennials are really going to be taking care of them while trying to, raise their grandbabies or help Gen Z. So it just gave me such a holistic perspective of how this whole thing works from like start to finish, and give me such a respect for every season of that, and realize, well, we all have to work together in this one too, just like everywhere else in life. Like this really is a team effort.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm actually bringing my parents over. The generation we grew up in was like, well, okay, you grow up, you leave, your parents stay where they're at, then they'll enter the nursing home where they're at. Let's bring it all back together. That's not how it's supposed to be. Families were supposed to, Hawaii, especially because of the Asian, culture and things, families together and sharing those resources, that's part of making this work. Having all of these roles and responsibilities bifurcated and paying someone else to take care of mom and dad is really separate from our nature. And, right. And also we lose part of the education that we can provide to our children. I have 4 daughters and 2 sons, and each of them, each of them have had to work with me in the nursing home. I made them go do dishes and I made them go become a CNA, or just so that, when you go in and do activities, to understand that there's someone outside of you and that someone has needs and that you learn how to care for others. It's a basic thing, but we've lost in our world that someone else is going to provide all these services and care for those people who are our family. Hopefully we can reconnect.
Yeah, the discernment of outsourcing too is a tough one for me. I struggle with it a lot, right? I have 3 kids. I'm a full-time career woman at the same time. And I have a lot of recreational activities and values. So it's like that work-life balance. It's like, outsourcing is really important, but in discerning like what is what to outsource and what is not worth outsourcing is a tough thing to figure out. And if anything, there's not really a book on it. There's not someone who can really tell you like, here's what you should outsource and you shouldn't. But it's helpful for me to ask the older generation, like, hey, looking back, what's some perspective you can offer me as I figure out what I'm going to outsource this decade, of all these responsibilities that I have. So
sure.
Valuable.
And we need to rely on our kapuna because they've seen things too. Not that they don't have anything to offer. They may have different opinions, but we should still revere and respect their opinions and try to glean and, like you say, discern from their scripts and from different things that they've picked up over time, things that we can take with us and carry and say, yes, you had that right, but this, maybe we're going to adapt this a little bit, but thank you for sharing, because that's now we're complete as a sort of a generation over generation. And so that's exciting.
Yeah, they're so helpful. And it's funny because what I find in like the wise elders is they don't force it down your throat. They just kind of keep quiet and let you just kind of like ramble and try things out. And then finally when you're like, okay, I'm ready to listen now. Go ahead and let me know what I probably should have asked you years ago, and I'll actually listen now. And then, you know, they know that it's like everything's seasonal, right? So like when you're ready to hear what I have to share, you'll tip me off and I'll share it, because then you'll receive it.
Yeah, I think it's an old Buddhist saying that says, when the student is ready, the master will come.
Go there.
Right. So I hope that works. Yeah, you have to be ready to learn. If you're gonna go tell everybody how it works, then you're not open for new input. So I think it's a key leadership skill that we should re-ensconce as essential. And thank you for sharing that, for sure. So many things that you do for Kauai, so many things that you're doing for the people there and for your community. I'm just grateful that you are, again, our first woman guest, and sort of leading the pack and leading out as a leader in general in Hawaii. So we're just so grateful that you came. But before we let you go, we've got a little, what we call a pauhana. It's Friday too. We lucked out. It's Friday. A little bit of question and answer. We want just to see a little bit more about you, have a little fun, but a couple of rapid questions, and we'll see. Tell us the best place to go if you want some nightlife in Kauai.
Oh gosh, come on. Kauai closes down at 9 p.m. So if
you gotta have a secret spot. You gotta have a secret spot.
If the bars are closing at 9 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And you're still jonesing, I would say there are house parties. There are beach parties all over and parties I use, you know, that doesn't mean a mass amount of people. It just means good people and a cool gathering place with probably really good, you know, bourbon or wine or beer or what have you.
Is that an invite only little speakeasy?
Usually very much speakeasy style. And then the beaches, of course, you know, sunset and after sunset under the stars with a bonfire. We're so fortunate to have such a small island community that we get some luxuries that the Oahu folks don't anymore, you know, being able to drive. I don't think we can drive on beaches anymore. I better be careful with what I say. Sure.
Yeah, well, you know,
there's a lot of empty beaches, and people, as long as people are being respectful, there's a lot of opportunity to hang out there and see the stars. And so that's more the vibe in the evenings here. It's a kind of an early to go to sleep community, early to rise. But if you're really jonesing to stay up, there's some gorgeous spots to stargaze and some gorgeous, you know, homes or areas to hang out with just your crew. My kids and I will stargaze on the trampoline all the time when they want to stay up late. But the bars close down. However, Tahiti Nui in Hanalei is always hopping.
Okay.
You know, sometimes till like 1 or 2 a.m. So if you're on, you know, anywhere close to that side of the island, if you really just want to go have a drink and listen to some live music, Tahiti Nui is awesome.
And the folks coming from the mainland or wherever too, you know, they're on a different schedule and they may want to get up and you know, keep going and things. So that's good. That's good. So
we do. I want to say this real quick. We do have this incredible speakeasy called Avalon. It's on the east side, but they're opening a new. They're building a new one up north in Kilauea town. Best bourbon cocktails I have ever had.
Okay.
Gabe and Allie Avalon own it, and they are just pure craftsmanship. Everything they do there is like house made. They use all the bitters they make their own bitters from their garden. And their bourbon selection is incredible. So definitely find Avalon too.
Again, another example of someone who is able to make it in Kauai, has their art and their science or whatever their work is, they've got it down because that's how they can stay. Is their service is right, their stuff is right, and Kauai says you can stay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how about this? When you read a little bit about you too, athlete, snowboarding, surfing, rock climbing, your go-to sport when you want to get some stress out, you want to you know get that body moving.
Been freediving a lot lately. Really excited for the summer freediving season. I actually just took a class with Kurt Chambers, the world champion. Yeah, got my breath hold up to reach 4 minutes now. So this summer is going to be a lot of fun freediving.
I took a class. I took one too. I only, 20 meters was about as far as I could get, but no, I'm just still trying to practice and the breathing and everything. It helps in so many ways, learning that breathing and also being able to be calm under the pressure and things. So Well, again,
Great sport.
there must be great. Where would you go if you went diving? Free diving.
Well, I live up north, so I do a lot of, like, in the summertime, especially Anini and just sort of hideaways in a lot of the north areas. But Big Island really has some of the best diving in the world, best free diving. It's very deep there. Kauai's a little harder to find the deep zones, but if you hop on a boat, you can find anything too.
Sure. So with all that athleticism and things like that, you must eat well. But if you've got a guilty pleasure and you want to go somewhere and eat something nice, maybe a nice dessert or some food that you can just grind on and just be full and kind of, where would that be in Kauai?
I love ice cream. Avalon has homemade ice cream, so I go there a lot. Lappert's has also bomb ice cream, and my kids make me take them there all the time.
Is there a special ice cream? My kids go get vanilla, and they said,
Vanilla.
why do you go get vanilla? But they said, it's the best vanilla. I mean, it's good vanilla. So, so what about you? What's your favorite there? Ice cream?
Little chocolate, just rich, deep chocolate ice cream is my go-to.
There's some things like that you can't.
But Allie at Avalon makes peanut butter ice cream homemade, and it's killer. So sometimes I venture off chocolate just for that one.
Well, everybody loves chocolate. You can't say no to chocolate.
Except for my stepdad. He doesn't like chocolate. It's weird.
Well, everybody's got a special
superpower. He's got
that's right. Superpower. That's right. Superpower. Things are your kryptonite. Some people have kryptonite, or there are things that makes them charged up. Monica, this has been a real pleasure. I wish I had some more time, actually. And as things progress and as you're in your career, I'm hopeful that you can come back on the show and let everybody know what else you've got going on. I'm sure we didn't cover half of what you're doing. And so, So
in the meantime, though, come over to Kauai and we'll go check out some spots and get some good bourbon and ice cream and watch a sunset, and you'll see the nightlife on Kauai.
Oh man, that sounds good. We're looking for a vacation as soon as our oldest daughter graduates here. So maybe a quick hop to Kauai sounds just about right.
Glorious. Okay, good.
Right.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, Monica,
David?
Take care. Ahui ho and aloha.
Aloha.
All right.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.